So, hey everyone, welcome to the 21 Minutes or Less podcast. Today we have a special guest, Miss Tasha Wilson, who's also known as the Messenger of Hope. She's a published author and transformational speaker, and her life's mission is to inspire millennial women on how to rise from a place of pain to a posture of promise. So, welcome to the 21 Minutes or Less podcast. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm really good. I cannot complain. I love your mission, everything that you're doing right now, especially with the public speaking. So what really inspired you to get into the public speaking and also just helping other women, through their own pain?
Well, for me, it's so funny. I tell everyone that this is something that I kind of landed into, basically on God's intent and purpose for my life because I'm naturally introverted. So being able to operate in extroverted spaces is still something that is mind blowing to me.
Hmm.
Um, it's not something I was like, oh, let me do this. Let me go out here and, let me just put my whole life on the line and be vulnerable and, share about my own experiences to people I don't know. But you know how it is when you decide what you want to do and then God's like, yeah, nope, here's a detour. This is what you have to do kind of thing. And so for me, I think about, where it was in my life where I was dealing with secret battles of depression,
Hmm.
low self-esteem, and I didn't really have anyone to turn to, outside of like my mom or, like an aunt or so. But I didn't really have a network of support or a community of my own to really say, this is what I'm dealing with, and I don't know how to navigate through that. And so that's what really inspired me to be that voice for others who may be dealing with things internally but don't know how to express them outwardly.
Got you. And is it a specific group of type of women that you help?
Yeah, well, specifically millennial women, because I think we are often the ones that are forgotten about, if you will. There's this stigma that a lot of times millennial women do not know how to work together or, be that support and uplift one another when it's not true at all. It's just that a lot of us may have been offended or hurt when we've reached out to others and we didn't get that reciprocated. And so when you provide a space where that is then shown, I think that's where we're more open to really talk about what we're dealing with and to really know that there's others who understand or feel the same way we do. Specifically, I navigate through the space of like trauma and loss. That's something that I've personally experienced, and I truly believe that my own life lessons are the best teacher. I can't talk about from a topic that I don't know or I'm unfamiliar with. And I believe that when we go through trauma or we experience loss, it then kind of shifts our thinking about how we perceive the world and how we're supposed to show up for ourselves and for others.
Definitely. I also help people with trauma and things like that just as a therapist. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really, really great that you're having a way, because some people might not, be comfortable with therapy, but they just need someone to speak to. So I love that you're creating a whole network of women who can, just help and uplift each other.
Mm-hmm.
What's some things that you actually, I guess, like do with them? Is it like journaling?
Yeah. So, we've had this thing. Royalty Refined is an organization that I founded in 2015, which is often centered around those things. And we've done platforms where we had blog posts. They were called Friday Features, and where women were able to fill in the blank of who am I when, and that's a way for them to open up and share about personal, intimate things that they've experienced. And we've had, women talk about miscarriages. We've had women talk about infertility. We've had women talk about the loss of a spouse. We had women talk about being sexually assaulted. We had women talk about divorce. It's just all kinds of things that they bring to the table, and they were more open and receptive to sharing because they all started off by saying the same thing. Wow, I never thought that anybody would care about my story because no one ever asked. So, we do Friday features. We've also did a royalty in action where women who are out here, juggling multiple hats in the community. And sometimes, people get caught up on the works that you do that they kind of lose sight of the humanity part of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a space where women could say, yes, I'm doing XYZ publicly, but internally I'm dealing with this. I'm dealing with doubt. I'm dealing with fear. I'm dealing with rejection, those kind of things. And so allowing them to be the voice to not only share their story to connect with other people, but then also to give some tips and strategies on how they were able to overcome certain things. And additionally, we have annual events.
Mm-hmm.
Our major one is the Newfound Esteem and Worth Conference, where we'll either have like a panelist of speakers or a keynote speaker for us to all kind of gather together in a formal setting.
Wow, I love that. Um, Definitely just the model of coming together once a year so you can hear about the stories of other people, just so you can learn and, share experiences and share stories. um for you, as someone who's like, leading this and, really taking on a lot of responsibility, a lot of other people's trauma, what's some things you do to just help your own self with your own self-care regimen,
Mm-hmm.
personal development, growth, etc.?
One thing I do is that I listen to my body a lot. Like if I feel that I'm beginning to become like overwhelmed or super anxious, I listen to that and I respond to the need of what my body is asking for. And so I'm very intentional on setting apart time for me, whether that's just sitting still, sitting in quietness. Um, whether it's doing something productive that I love to do, it could be painting, it could be coloring. A lot of times I mainly like to journal and just really sit with my thoughts. I try to kind of touch base with myself, doing like an emotional wellness check-in. Like, how are you feeling today, Tasha? How can you show up for you today? Because I don't want you to lose sight of, even though you're showing up for everyone else, you still have to maintain who you are as well. Because if I'm not okay, then everyone else that I'm connected to or impacted is not going to be okay. So I got to make sure, that my life battery percent isn't on
Mhm.
that 5%, where I need
Yeah.
to recharge. And so I'm very intentional with making sure that I check in and do personal inventory with myself. And then if I'm not feeling okay, what is that rooted in? How do I remain grounded? And how do I address those things? And so, most of the time people look at self care like bubble bath and, long walks on the beach. But a lot of it really is to recenter yourself and really decompress those thoughts or those other external factors that could compete for the attention that you need for your body and yourself.
Wow. That's really important, just because, when you're dealing with so many other people, you have to make sure you're good, or else everything is going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
So what advice would you give to someone who's already kind of reached that point and they may be burnt out, they haven't been doing any check-ins? Like, would you just say maybe start, or is this some kind of extra work that you have to do to overcome already burning out once it happens?
I definitely would encourage those who are at the place of burnout to really start where you are. Like, just because you're burnt out doesn't mean it's necessarily the end.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a way. Like I say, you're here every day for a reason. So that gives you another opportunity to set yourself up for success, whatever that may look like or mean to you. So if you are feeling burnt out, start taking the time now to really reinvest in yourself. A lot of times as a giver, you're always pouring out and you're always feeling bad if you don't have the space to sacrifice for somebody else, but always make sure that you're in the right posture to be in a positive headspace. And so what that may look like could be listening to your favorite song, a song that gives you joy, a song that makes you feel happy and at peace. Talk to somebody, make sure that you have a person that's able to hold space for you. Because I think sometimes when you pour out and you pour out, it's kind of hard to receive and get someone to pour back into you. So make sure you have that one person who's your space holder. And if you don't have that one person, that's when you need to really reevaluate your circle and assess who you're allowing in into your intimate space.
Got you. Definitely assessing the circle is important, because those around you, like, whether you realize it or not, they're always influencing and impacting you. So
Mm-hmm.
what's some things you look for in like close relationships, friendships, even like business partnerships, to let you know this is a safe space for me to interact with someone else?
So I definitely look at character a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do they interact with others? Like the words that they say, do they really match their actions? Because, people can tell a story real good, but if they're like outwardly being mean towards people, or, just being very um rigid towards others, it makes you question, right? Because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
like I always say, like, if you're going to be an influencer or a creative, you have to understand that you're also a walking billboard. Like, people are really going to watch and see what you do, and oftentimes people don't listen to what you say, they model the behavior that you present. And so I look at those things like, how do you connect with others? How do you speak to yourself? Because that's also important. Like, if you're always doubting yourself and always being rough with yourself, then how can I believe that there's going to be a mutual exchange if, I'm going to say, you know what? Today I'm not feeling the greatest. I'm going to need, you to empower me, and vice versa. But if you're always negative with self-talk, then that lets me know that you're not able to have the capacity that I may need for me to be connected to right now in this season. And so I look at those things. I really look at how you operate, like, how important is your business to you? How important is your brand? And do you understand the why and the purpose and intent of your brand? That allows me to, determine if I want to connect with you on a business level, because what I'm doing has to align with what you're doing. They can't conflict. And so I look at those things. And when it comes to my circle, it's always about trust. It's always about accountability, having those hard conversations that others may not feel comfortable in talking to you about, because I need you to check me as much as I check me. And I think also being unbiased. You don't need people that's going to judge you, like when you fall short or when you have an issue going on. I need people that's, if you're going to be there with me during the celebration, I also need you to be there with me in the trenches.
Got you. And that's important to have those, friends that you can build with and see longevity with. But what about those people you kind of realize that they may not be the best choice for you? How do you separate from them? Because even separation sometimes can be a form of self care and just doing what's best for you,
Mm-hmm.
protecting your energy. So how do you disconnect from people in a way that won't be deconstructive?
Oh, that is so funny that you asked me that, because I actually had to do that with a few people not too long ago, honestly.
Mhm.
And for me, I think just like with any relationship, whether it's romantic or platonic, when there's a shift that takes place
Mhm.
between whatever you got going on. You know that there's a difference. Like, that you may not be communicating as much. You may not be around each other as much. Like, something has happened where it kind of broken the longevity of the relationship, but you're just trying to figure out what, where, why, and how. And so for me, I am a processor. And I like to discuss things. I'm just the type of person that I like to be upfront with
Mhm.
what's going on. And so just having that candid conversation. Typically, there may be like red flags or things you may see. And I'm one of those that I also love to give people chances and opportunities. So even after I see those red flags, you start making excuses and justifying the behavior. But then after a while, you're like, the way that I feel about this in their behavior is not okay. So you, one, got to acknowledge how you feel, address how you feel, and then confront that. So by having a conversation, with those people, and what I often do, I just kind of bring to the table and I say, you know what? I noticed that things have drastically shifted between us, and I'm not sure if I'm okay with where we are right now. And I'll tell them, you're a good person, and, you were an amazing friend during the time that I needed, and vice versa. And the relationship that we did develop and cultivate was beneficial at that time. But moving forward, I'm not saying that I'm completely cutting you off, but it seems like the way that we need to communicate further has to be adjusted to where I'm going and where you're going. And that's usually how I present it. sometimes it doesn't go well. People either get really abrasive or defensive, but I always tell people, watch how the other person reacts or responds when you're now owning how you feel and you're now also bringing it to the table. Because if they're really your friend and if it's someone who's supposed to be there in the long haul and not seasonal, then they're not going to dismiss or discredit what you're bringing to the table.
Definitely. I think, those genuine friendships, it's like it's not too much that can happen to
Mm-hmm.
where it can just be really, really broken up. But a lot of friends are here for reasons and for seasons. So it does come to the point where you have to protect your energy, do what's best for you at a certain point in time. Um, so lastly, can you just leave our listeners with three gems that you want them to take? And for you, it can be specifically for people out there who might be listening and they have trauma,
Mm-hmm.
or some self-love issues, or self-esteem, whatever it may be. But can you just leave them with three tips or gems that you really want to make sure that they understand?
Sure. So my first gem would be, um, your past is an identifier. It's not your identity. Don't allow what happened to you to consume you because you're more than your story. The second gem would be that your voice has value and your life has purpose. Don't allow anyone to silence anything that you have to say. And my third gem would be always take care of you. Always know that you are a priority.
Perfect. So don't let your past identify you. Use your voice and take care of yourself. I think those are all important lessons to learn for sure. Um, can you please leave our listeners with where they can find you on social media?
Absolutely. So, if you are a big Instagram person like I am, you can follow me on Life with Tasha W _. You can also feel free to send me an email at lifewithtashaw@gmail.com. Just in case if you just need me to connect with you, if you have some personal questions or need follow up or just want to invite me to come speak somewhere, that's fine. I also have a website, www.tashaw.net, and you can also find me on Facebook at Tasha W.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for joining us. I really, really appreciate you just giving us your time, giving us the gems, giving us, information about how we can develop ourselves better. Make sure y'all go follow the 21 minutes or less pages as well. Our Instagram is 21 minutes or less, as well as our Facebook. And then on YouTube, you can search 21 minutes or less podcast. And then don't forget to follow our personal pages. Mine is at Keisha Milana. And Nakia's is at Miss Butterfly 21, and that's MISS. Nakia couldn't join us today, but I'm so, so happy that we were able to still talk to Miss Tasha. Anything else you want to add before we go?
No, I just want to say thank you, for creating this space for people to really talk about things that are important. I think that we often don't have the opportunity to share these things, especially about self care. And it's so important, especially now with the climate of the world. So thank you.
Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see y'all on the next episode.
See you later.